Yes, thank you, Guido, for the nice welcome, and hello from my side as well. I will try to shed some light today on one of our use cases with this, which is regards to integration architecture. And it will be a hands-on session, so we will have some modeling theory about LeanIX, but then I really want to show you how we model interfaces, integrations, and how we want to help you to handle your increasingly complex integration architecture. So first, I would like to briefly set the scene about at what point in time we are right now with regards to integration architecture and why this is an important topic at this moment. Then secondly, I would like to give you some guidelines on modeling theory, how we propose that you conduct the integration architecture modeling within LeanIX. And then, of course, probably the most important part is how you want to give you some examples, how you can foster discussions based on the results and the transparency that you have in LeanIX. And we heard that before today, that should really be one of the goals to use LeanIX as a tool to foster discussions. So let's start in what kind of world we live today. And I think this slide you can probably put up at any point of time, and everyone will say you will live in a world of a lot of change, and things are quicker and are changing constantly. And it's also the case for integration architecture. So on the one hand, the number of point-to-point relations that you might have in your businesses is increasing. So we conducted the survey, and some of you might have been in the session where this was presented in detail. We asked IT leaders how many applications they have, and from companies with more than $1 billion dollars of turnover, 14% of them had more than 2,000 applications in their portfolio. And if you drill it down one level, or if you go down one level further, 36% of those respondents said that they would have at least 1,000 applications. So the world is already, for some of you, is already really complex. Then with the rise of microservice architecture, that actually increases the IT complexity. So we asked, what are the main drivers for you that increases the complexity that you have? And 29% said, yeah, that's microservice. So we see there that really going from those monolith blocks to a microservice architecture, that increases additionally your complexity and your number of point-to-point relationships. Then we also have the shift to the cloud and to virtualization. And that actually was the number one answer, where the IT leader said that's driving most of their complexity. So 59% said, this is my main reason why my IT landscape is getting more complex. And yet, we are still not anywhere close to this being completed. So from a different research, we found out that only 26% of all of the applications were in the cloud in 2018, and that this will change until 2021 to 38%. So even there, this move to the cloud is only just in the middle of the process. And last but not least, most of you probably face this as well, the business transformation towards more agility and efficiency. So projects need to get done faster. Organizations switch to a more product IT focus to really focus on the customer journey and supporting that from an IT side rather than having big IT projects. And some people call that it's really a continuous everything. So where before steps happened, planning, deployment, and testing in between happened after each other, those are things that happen constantly right now. And also we at LeanIX, we are constantly deploying new features, new functionalities. So we have everything basically being conducted at the same time. And this is not only important for IT, but it also reflects on the different parts of the organizations with sales and marketing who also need to keep up with that change. So to give you an idea of, and I see some of the customers here, of our customers, how you manage your integration architecture with us. I brought some figures for you. So one key element of that use case for us is the number of interfaces. So in total, you see it's 76,000 interfaces that we have in the system, which is quite a lot. On the other hand, you see the third row, the highest number of one customer. They have almost 8,000 interfaces. So 1/10 of all of our interfaces in LeanIX come from one customer. So it might be a sign that not every one of you is using that yet, and a welcome that you might want to try that use case as well and manage your integration architecture with LeanIX. Average number of interfaces, I think, can run through that really quickly. It depends a little bit on the size of the customer. So the bigger normally a customer is, the more interfaces they have on average. The ratio, 2 to 0.8 applications to interfaces. Again, probably rather a sign that not all of you are using that yet, so that you have applications in your system, but you don't have interfaces modeled. And with regards to reports, there's two major reports, which I will also show today. One is the interface circle map, and the other one is the data flow. And we do have customers that really go onto these reports almost every time that they log in. So almost every unique login creates an event on that report. So people are really using it. And that brings me to the question why people are using it. And there's a number of questions that you might get asked by your CEO, CIO, by your business partner, or maybe also by IT delivery. So for example, how are my applications interconnected? So that's a really simple question. But also maybe what prevents me to phase out some of my applications? I would like to make a migration. I would like to phase out something, but what does that mean for other applications or maybe for my data flow? Do I maybe have applications that are a point of failure because they have so many interfaces? So if that one crashes, what happens to my whole organization? Will I still be able to produce my goods? Will I still be able to recruit talent? And without going through all of them, one that I would also showcase later is with regards to personal data. So in what applications are handling personal sensitive information, maybe relevant for compliance or for GDPR use cases. But you could also go down a little bit more on the technical side to see how are my interfaces connecting with each other? What type of technology do they rely on? How often do they interact? And what kind of data are they transporting? So those are questions that I would like to put to your mind, and that you are able to answer with the integration architecture use case in LeanIX. So now I would like to go into some modeling theory, how you would do that in the tool. And afterwards, I will go to the real life examples. So we understand the core of integration architecture being the interface. So what you really want to visualize is the data flow from one application via the interface to another application. And while doing that, it can transport certain data objects, and it runs on a certain technology. So to make that a little bit more concrete, we don't want to focus on technical descriptions of interfaces on a really detailed level, but our focus is really, look at the data flow, try to map it end to end. So if we take the first example, the LeanIX APIs. So you have LeanIX as the providing application on the one hand side. You have other tools like maybe Signavio or a project portfolio management tool on the other side. And they are connected via an API, in this case the LeanIX Pathfinder API, which then transports fact sheet information and relies on a GraphQL technology. And the data flow can go in both directions. So also from Signavio to LeanIX, the data could be flowing. Second example is with our identity management, where we rely on our backend system, MTM. So their user data is transferred via our REST API. So even if you have some of those applications internally and some are externally, to see the data flow, we would always recommend to also model the external ones, and you could tag them, for example, that you can later filter them out if you want. So what would that look like in LeanIX? Just a quick preview. You would here see the application LeanIX on the one hand side, on the other hand side, the three applications that we saw before, and in the middle, the interfaces, all blue, which mean that they're active right now, and the technology that lies underneath it, REST and GraphQL, and the data object which it is transporting. A second example is open APIs. You might not know, or you might not want to know who is on the other end of the data flow. So you might have an application that's giving product information, but it's open for anyone. So you don't really want to model the recipient. So you can also do that. In this case, Product API relies on the REST and X-Way technology. And the use case might be that you want to know all of your APIs that are already managed by X-Way. The same is true for the user API. It can also transfer multiple data objects, so not just user information, but also several data objects, and runs on a different IT component, a different technology. Third example is middleware, and we get asked that a lot from you guys. So how should I model our middleware? Our recommendation is always the standard to model it as a technology, to not model it as a separate application. The reason for that being that it really you really get the data flow between the applications, and you might not want to know on an application level because it might not have a business user in between to have that in your application overviews. But of course, there's exceptions. We also see customers who have good reasons to put that in as an application. But normally, we would say model it as a technology. Again, the same principles apply to as seen in the examples before. The last example being, what about legacy and manual interfaces? And we would strongly recommend to also model those. So you might have an ERP system that's doing a nightly export via an FTP to your CRM or to your homepage. So even there, if it's a legacy technology, if it's maybe even a manual process in the below example, it might be really interesting to model that as well, because it is a data exchange that is happening, although it's not supported by any technology, but it's there. And if it fails, you might also have an issue. And maybe that's also a point of discussion for you to look at all of the interfaces which you have that are manual.
What else would I do if I not model it?
So we have sometimes the question that people say, if it's manual, I wouldn't model it, because I only want to model technical interfaces. So there we say it doesn't rely on any technology, that's why I wouldn't model it, but we would always say it makes sense to model it, that you have the complete picture. Okay, then let's go into the examples. And the first one is, which I want to show you really is from our internal LeanIX data. So we at LeanIX run LeanIX, and we use it for our use cases as well. And I will now show you some animated GIFs. They are always running through, so it might be that they are sometimes a little bit too quick. I'll let them rerun, try to still stay on top of it and explain it to you. And then if it's still there's any questions remaining, just let me know, and we can also discuss them at the end. So the first example that I want to give you a really high-level insight of how can you see in LeanIX how my applications are connected. and how are they interacting with each other and how often. So here you would start on the interface circle map. You see all of the applications, and in green and red, the providing and consuming interfaces. From there, you could already directly jump into the data flow diagram. So with one click, that opens, and you see the same view that you just had on the page before with the application that you selected last. So here, for example, you already see the interfaces, you see the data objects, and you can select the label that you want to display. So you could easily switch around to the technology, you could switch to the data object, or you could switch to the frequency that data is transferred. So again, going from the interface circle map, leaving on the Gainsight application, which we use in customer success. If you jump over to the data flow, you see Gainsight on the right side, all of the other interfaces and applications that are connected, and you can easily change the attributes that you want to display. You also see the dashed line and the solid line, which already shows that one of those applications is in phase-in right now. So you can have your diagrams. They are always based on your inventory. So as soon as the data is in your inventory and you have connected the interfaces to it, they will automatically show up here. And I say semi-automatically because some of these the report you will need to manually configure, but as you saw now, jumping from the interface circle map to here, that will automatically create the report. And if you have changes, then you see the change for updates button. Those will also automatically be then adapted. So you don't need to redraw your picture every time that something, your application landscape changes. So going on from here, you can add the business context to it. So there's a view function, and it lets you add, for example, the functional fit. So here we see green, everything looks good. Our applications have a good functional fit. You could select business criticality, for example, to show you all of your applications by criticality, which shows you LeanIX is really for us business critical. You can imagine what happens if that's down. You can go further down and add more connections as well to the certain applications. So there you saw I did a drill down to user groups and to the underlying technology. So it will run through again. So this really, the view function is something that we implemented this year, where you can really see the business context with regards to your applications and your interfaces. So this view also includes tags. So if you use tags, you can also apply those here. You can still manually change the color if you want, but the great benefit is here that you really do it. You rely on the same attributes that you have given in the inventory, and the views are the same that you might know from other reports. So here the last step again, drilling down from the Gainsight application to the user groups. So we see that it's using LeanIX here in Germany, then also especially customer success, and also our Boston office is also using LeanIX. It's using Gainsight, sorry. So yeah, adding the business and technology context, that's probably the biggest benefit here, that you have the bridge between your IT architecture and your business architecture. And this is just an example. You could also include business capabilities, you could include processes and so forth. It reacts to data updates, I already mentioned that, and you can share these results. So since we presented that yesterday, this functionality will now be available, that you can save this diagram and then recommend it to other users and have them, that they have the same view that you have directly. So then let's go into the second example. And here I want to answer the question, which applications handle critical or personal data? And is the data flow compromised or outdated by outdated applications or technologies? And thus might might be a risk for you. So we talked about complexity, and you might feel that you're overwhelmed by the complexity in your organization. And this is a real live example from one of our customers. You saw maybe the keynote also this morning, where there was a really complex interface circle map. This is another one, and you might say, I don't get any information out of this anymore. But there's good news. Of course, the filter functionality that we have also lets you drill down quite easily to what you really need. So now, next I will show you how you would filter, not on this workspace, but on a different one, to just employee-related data. So here we have an interface circle map again, and some of you will know the filter facets on the top where it says interfaces and applications. So first, I just want to see all of the applications that handle employee-related data. So I go there, I put in employee for the data object, which I have in my system, and automatically the complexity gets reduced. I then again jump into my data flow, and I see that this interface is actually end of life. And it might be a little bit too quick, but you will see it again. I now attach a successor interface. So with just a few clicks, I know what's the successor interface. I can easily adapt it and then have it on my screen. And it'll just run through again, and then I'll show you a standstill picture as well. So you would filter for the type of data that you want. And it doesn't need to be on the fact sheet, but can be on a related one, as you just saw, the employee, which is a data object fact sheet. You jump into the data flow. You see that the interface is out of date. You directly jump into the fact sheet of the application, AC management. You add a new interface, and you do the same on the second fact sheet where it's connected to. So I think it's HR admin. You do the same, and then the interface is added. So you have reduced complexity via filters. You have a visual representation of the outdated architecture. So I'll show you again on the next screen. So you can easily spot already what of my interfaces have which lifecycle, and you can add new relations on the fly. So here, you now see that there is a new little arrow which I can click on, and the new interface pops up. So you see the old one, which is still in yellow, and you see the new one, which is active, which is blue. So then you can also further expand. So all of these little arrows symbolize that there is connections to those. So I might want to understand also where those handle employee-related data, and I could click that through. So this will also run again. So it's really easy to see which applications have interfaces, which don't have any interfaces, and then expand the picture to your level of interest. And of course, you could share this, save this now, share it with others. So as a next step, you might say, okay, this is nice, but it also has interfaces now, which I wasn't really interested in because they handle contractual data, for example. So you could manually remove those, but we also have a functionality that says select by filter. So you can also now apply the same filter that we had before to reduce this picture again and to select those applications that you don't want to see anymore. So you just do a right click, select by filter, go again in the logic, all applications that handle employee data, you insert them, sorry, there was one step back, I'll just take one step back that you don't get confused. It's not select all of the employee related applications, but of course all the other ones. So we have the chance to reverse that filter as well. So let that run again. So select by filter all of the applications. You select employee data object. Then you select that you want to see all of the other ones. You insert those, and you will see a little blue outline. So then you can delete them, and you go back to the view that you had. So what you see already now is, again, I apply the business context. So in that view, you could now say, I only want to see the applications that run on critical, outdated technology, which you would then also be able to see here. So first step is go back to only the applications that handle employee data. And the next step is to just drill down to the technology level, and there only select the ones that handle that are end of life. So that's happening there. The built-in technology view, I see AC management is not supported. I want to know why. I go to the IT components and select all the ones that are end of life. And then I know exactly why this application is not supported anymore.
Short question.
Mm-hmm.
I also filter out to see just the interfaces which are connected or related to a certain data. Just based on the applications, so that I see all the time all interfaces on the application.
You could filter on the application and see what kind of data objects are handled there.
But I can also have a relation from the data object to an interface.
Mm-hmm.
You can also filter based on that.
Yes, I believe you can also filter that. Yeah. Well, we can also check back later as well. Yeah, so you have the visualized end-to-end data flow of your critical data. You have the business context via the tech risk view, and you can even then drill down to the technology that really is causing your issues, why the application is not supported anymore. Mm-hmm.
So I have one more question regarding the middleware thing you just pointed out. So I think this is really a major problem, because if you have a middleware which maybe transfers one incoming technology or protocol to another, you want to see that. For example, you have whatever web service or SAP IDOC coming in, and for some reasons you transfer it into a file forward and you use an FTP server. And you cannot see or model how you propose it right now, on which exactly interface part you use which technology,
Mm-hmm.
because LeanIX is currently not supporting that. As long as you're staying on the IT component side, as soon as you enter whatever SAP API as an application, you have that, but then you're losing the logical view.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything from LeanIX plan to make that visible or to support those scenarios?
Right now, this is where we stand, and there's nothing that I'm aware of that we will make adjustments in that case. But I think it's always there's always core use cases and then corner use cases. But let's also discuss afterwards for me to understand your issue better, to see if there is a solution how we can already do that now. But right now, this is the way how we do it. Okay. So just to sum things up, if you focus on your integration architecture, this should give you the chance that IT and especially EA moves the roles from being a supplier to being a strategic advisor of the business. So if you can show with a few clicks how your data is related, where the critical points and points of failure are, it's more likely that the business will come to you and ask for your advice. Probably the main reason for that is that with that information, it's less likely that you have major business failures or compliance issues. And our goal to support you in that is to do it as data-driven and as automatic as possible. for you to really have the ability to see the end-to-end data flow that you have within your organization. Thank you very much.